Dan Bernstein is in studio here at 670 The Score. That's nice to say. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. You look good.
Thanks, buddy. So do you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is quite a thing today. It's the, well, you know what it is to have an effect on a populace. And Terry Boers has had a massive effect on a populace, be it Chicago, but it's even bigger than that. It is vast. He's had an effect on a medium, and he's had an effect on a fan base. And there's just so much to discuss in regards to the legacy of the man that, frankly, I'm not sure 7 hours is enough.
No, he'd be miserable about all this talking about him. He would, buddy.
Shut up, buddy.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, we got better stuff to talk about. This would make him all incredibly uncomfortable. I know that. But it has been...
I mean, you've been going through it over at 312 with Unfiltered and all that feedback. We've been going through it here with all our feedback. And then, I mean, Steve Rosenblum did an amazing job on Saturday with a live radio show. Every show since has taken calls. We're doing this today. Chris Ranji's going to take 2 hours probably of calls tonight. The outpouring is just unbelievable.
I've said this multiple times. I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but everything sort of remains true.
I don't listen to anything you do, so
nor should you.
Thank you.
The idea of mourning and grief is obviously nonlinear, and I always am making sure I feel like I'm doing it the right way. And you're supposed to be sad. We are supposed to. This is sad, and the problem is that bastard makes it impossible to be sad in the moment, because every time you think of the damn guy, you're laughing or you're smiling about something every single time. And every time you think, well, what can we do? We can remember him. That we always say, may his memory be a blessing. May his memory be a blessing. And with Terry, his memory is more than just a blessing. That's said generally as something that soaks in over time. That said, where one has moments where one realizes, wow, I'm having a time for memory, and this really is a blessing, or that I can think back and share or remember something and pay something forward that he would do or he would think. With him, the blessing is that you can't stay sad because you immediately start laughing about something stupid.
Yeah.
Or giggling about something stupid. For the past couple of nights, I have spent so much time going through so much of your. When I say you, I'm talking to you, the Score listener, the Terry Boers fan, and just going through so much heartfelt. How many stories and how many connections and how many moments of the most mundane details, the tiniest details. So many on the Who Needs To Tavern tour. So many were like, you're in my town. You're at my bar. And I remember when I went up to Terry and I said this, and Terry told me this. And I don't remember these things. These are a lot of it is a blur. It's been a long, long time. And I laugh all over again. And I'm there in the room, and they're talking about what Terry was saying to Dave Miska and Nick Hefner, and he was ordering his Jack and Coke, and his iPad didn't work, and the smallest things. And I'm giggling there and just laughing. Someone said, I sent this to Tannehill. I took a screenshot of this. I want to make sure I get this exactly right. I don't even know.
I've missed you looking at your phone while we're live on the air.
So I'll paraphrase. This guy says something. It was this beautiful note.
Okay.
Beautiful, emotional note about what Terry meant to him and getting him through difficult times. And then he says something. He says, I know it was tough for Terry near the end, but I'm glad that at least Dr. Rasmussen was there to provide relief and solace. A Dr. Rasmussen reference out of nowhere, under a drive. That was what Terry would always say, well, don't go to Dr. Rasmussen, because he only had one treatment. And that was Dr. Rasmussen's hot beef injection. And if you didn't need the treatment, it didn't matter, because that's all the good doctor was going to give to you anyway. I hadn't thought of that in forever.
I mean, it's been at least 10 years since we've heard it, and it's a B-side deep cut reference.
Exactly. And so I'm laughing. It's the middle of the night. Beth is trying to sleep. She goes, "Would you stop giggling? If you're gonna remember Terry, do it in a different room because you're being loud."
Oh, you have no choice.
Oh, but it's been, and that's just one example. Over and over and over, the smallest things, the little things that he said, and just making people happy or smile or in just something to forget something else or and there were important things too. There were things that people really remember about him. But to me, not surprisingly, it's the throwaway goofy stuff that hits hardest.
That has been the joy for me, is all of these people in this community sending stuff to each other and remembering things. Matt Fishman, who is honoring Terry today by having surgery.
Having all of his bodily fluids replaced by synthetic equivalents.
He's one of two people who couldn't be on the show today because they're having surgery, which is an amazing homage in itself.
That's kind of BS, I think, though. That's no excuse. I don't buy it. I think he should be here.
Fishman told me that he and Terry used to go to Wrigley in the early days, and Terry would walk around going, "Hi, I'm Tom Scher. Hi, I'm Tom Scher."
That's why I keep thinking no matter what, it'll be 5 years from now, and you'll be somewhere, and you'll hear somebody in the background you think say, "I'm Edward Dickman," and you'll be like, "Wait a second, did I hear that?"
Judd Surratt reminded me of Baron von Muffhausen. I forgot that one completely. There's a million of them.
There's honestly, 70% of it would get anybody canceled. Like the thing is, like it's that. A lot of it was just a walking scandal waiting to happen as far as what you can and can't say on the air.
Yes.
And that's okay because times change and times change for good reason.
I want to say that when you're describing the Who Needs To Tavern Tour memories, and it's 14 years of Friday remotes, right?
We counted them up.
I mean, it's
the total number of days we were out of the studio doing the show.
I know you at a live event. And you are different than Terry Boers at a live event. And because that guy, all he wanted to do was walk around and talk to people during the breaks and create more moments.
He wouldn't even know we were back on the air. We'd have to drag him back over. I'm busy. I'm talking to people. I don't have time for you. I'm talking to my guy over here.
I mean, was there anybody ever built for that job more?
Well, that's a great question. Because I know that you sort of asked that rhetorically, but he helped define the job. I think in a lot of ways, Terry's arc helped for a time. It's different now. But I think for a certain kind of writer, beat writer, journalist, columnist, radio guy, we can talk about Terry the comedian. And Terry was a brilliant comic soul.
Had a stand-up comics sensibility for callback.
And an insult comics ability to be able to cut you to ribbons and make you like it.
He was our Don Rickles.
And it was warm, and you knew it came from a good place, and he wouldn't make fun of you if he didn't love you. And it went for everybody he had a bad word for, wherever it was. However, that's only part of it. That's part of his hard wiring that made him great once the red light went on. But the other part was well steeped in news judgment, in understanding the sports zeitgeist of a city, of really knowing today, here's what's important, here's what's worth really having something strong to have an opinion about, and really understanding the inner workings of media and knowing, God, the off-the-air conversation, be like, why did so-and-so write that? He's like, well, I'll tell you why he wrote it, because he's the one who said this, and they're going to own this story, so they're going to downplay it, and you wait. When the Sun-Times publishes, it's going to be a completely different angle on it, so we want to, might want to think about, how if you said that, I don't know if you're going to like being the guy with that opinion, so he had a real sense that belied a lot of the goofy, I'm just a mind like a trap, and a tremendous understanding of all of that. Then the comic timing, then the goofiness.
So the rhetorical question is exactly what we should be thinking about from the professional perspective. I don't know if anybody was ever built for it. Like the way that they got lucky in choosing him, and the way that he got lucky in being chosen for this particular profession as it was opening up to the world.
There was a generation, though, that shared that, I think. When you talk about guys, they all came out of the NBA. A lot of these guys were NBA beat writers.
Kornheiser, an NBA beat writer?
Well, guys like Dan Barrero and Bob Ryan. And there were other big city NBA guys that also became newspaper columnists that then became very successful talk show hosts, if not full-time talk show hosts.
We had Pat Royce on earlier today. Right, I mean, he's
part of my company. He's part of Score North.
All right,
yep.
And there you go. So, and Terry, he knew all those guys. And I remember
hung out
when
together.
I was producing him, and you were a Bears reporter and Bulls reporter and part-time host of the Score in the '90s. He had a cavalcade of those guys,
of those dudes, and that's why when I had just come off, when we started in '99, I had just finished up that run with the Bulls and covering those teams, and I was really sort of steeped in some of that NBA stuff.
That's Boers and Bernstein, he's saying, started in '99. Terry had a whole career before that.
Oh, yeah. But that's when our show started, and we really bonded on sort of that understanding of basketball. A lot of it came in around basketball and around it. And this is not the greatest basketball city in the world.
Oh, no, but at that time, we just lived through excellence that has never been
We didn't
matched.
even understand what we were living through.
We're still sorting through it. But I laughed because you guys would share an arrogance at times, especially about basketball. The basketball re-education camp to which you would send people.
In Quebec.
Thank you. Yeah, give me as much as you can. That's my favorite of the creations. Please. Tell me as much as you remember about the basketball re-education camp. Because a caller would be an idiot in basketball terms, and you would send them there with a lot of different details.
Well, we still joke about it. The why do you hate Luol Deng, Bernstein? Well, maybe because you said, or someone said that they wouldn't trade Luol Deng for LeBron James. And at that point, I said, well, I don't know if that's when we established the charter for our basketball re-education facility. And we never quite figured out if it was a pleasant learning environment or if it was a medieval dungeon where you were simply forced to adopt our beliefs about basketball. It was more a coercion facility than it was necessarily an educational one. But yeah, this is a smart baseball town. It's a smart football town. Basketball's taken a while, and you still have people saying a lot of stupid basketball things in this town. So that fight's never over. I will tell you that. But it was a lot of and it wasn't necessarily shared opinions. But that I will say,
no, just in that moment. That's why I think I enjoyed it so much.
But it's funny that when you talk about you used to call it the freight train of hate and indignation.
Yes.
Where the great thing was that you had Terry. And it was Terry. A lot of the stuff that we'd have fun with and making fun of people.
Well, part of the reason that I called it that was because me and Mac would come here and do middays and lollygag and giggle our way through middays and be like, ha, ha, ha. And then we'd get you guys. At the end of our day, it was so miserable.
And we were just arriving.
Oh, you were just starting and you were a freight train of hate and indignation and somebody was going to get it and we were in your way. We were just in your way and it sucked.
Well, but
we loved it too.
Terry would say something like, well, yeah, buddy, I think the feelings show is done. Let's go in there and light somebody's ass on fire. All right, let's get it. But it wasn't.
But that's perfect.
Terry will also say that at various times it was everyone. It was Maddie and Jason and Scott Scher and Jay Hood and Zampillo and any number of people that we would say, what do you have? There's microphones in front of you for a reason. Use them. If you can contribute to whatever we were doing, whatever. We didn't call it improv, but there was definitely an improv sensibility in letting people, if you got something good, roll with it. Feed it.
So there definitely was. And you and I have talked a lot about improv, and this is an incredible improv city, and it should not be a surprise that the Score developed so quickly as that kind of sensibility.
Well, it was well managed, too. You had, it might have been accidentally well managed under certain regimes, but there were times where they just knew to get out of the way.
Well, go back.
Let it be.
Because I have a lot of respect for what you guys became as a partnership. But before that, he had an incredible partnership with Dan McNeil.
That's why I fell in love with The Score, was because of him. And I really learned how to drive a show because of McNeil.
Well, that's the thing. Mike Greenberg was on today and talked about that show. And I worked on that show and heard that show. And I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners who grew up and loved B&B. But speak to Terry's facility to be a partner in that show and then be a partner with you. That's a remarkable level of professionalism.
Yeah, but you're talking about being the most partnered in the history of the station. I mean,
but I was born for it. I'm the youngest of 5. I get along with all my siblings. This is just me in terms of getting along with people. Maybe that was just him, but I wonder if, like, how did it feel in those early years when Hood and Fishman are producing you and you guys are finding your way?
I'll tell you why it is. Because what I learned about Terry is Terry has his natural sense, conversationally and comedically, is almost like, it's funny that I heard John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin talking about this in the documentary that was actually approved by Led Zeppelin, which is good in its own right. But when they talk about when the wives show, they always talk about their wives. I'm like, you realize you're Led Zeppelin, right? I was watching on an airplane and I literally went, oh my God, are you kidding me with this? So John Paul Jones said, I realized all I had to do was find the spaces. He said, we've got a drummer there who's an absolute powerhouse. We've got a front man who is an absolute powerhouse. He said, there's a way to find the spaces and still be more than present. Terry's got this incredible, he doesn't have to say much. He can make a couple of silly noises and be what you remember. He can be what you take away. I'm not saying background. I'm saying his understanding of where the spaces are. The spaces around McNeil were a certain shape. The spaces around me would be a certain shape. And he just had a natural ability to feel in those areas in a conversation, in an interview, particularly in an interview. And when it really came out to me was how often we couldn't see each other. Nobody even knew.
It is astonishing the kind of chemistry that you two were able to create not seeing each other.
He was at home most days.
It is astonishing. Believe me, I've worked so much, and in the pandemic we all had to, but so much with partners on Zoom, or we would FaceTime or do anything we could to see each other. You guys didn't have that.
Yeah, but and a lot of that was him. And after a while, you know a person's breathing, and you just know exactly where somebody is in a thought or in an interview when it's time. We didn't need to see each other. That it just became it was his skill and his lack of ego.
Yeah, you're being modest because the two of you having figured that out. That comfort of that chemistry and that rhythm where you don't step on each other is a big part of your appeal, whether listeners understood it or not.
It's nothing that you work on. No. I think it just comes over time.
It's amazing.
But
anyway.
I just think that his lack of an ego and his understanding of partnership and how things can always be better the more you share. And I think I knew when it was time to get out of his way when he'd be on one. But he wanted to be the butt of the joke, too. He wanted to be made fun of.
I was thinking about, and I mentioned this, talked about it with friends in the business, the way that he would self-deprecate in a question. It became rote to hear, like, well, some people say it, maybe sometimes I say it, but who the hell am I?
I wouldn't say. Nobody would hear what I think.
Nobody would listen to me say it. But and the interviewee would be laughing, but he would also be eliciting a much more vulnerable and real level of answer, whether they wanted to or not.
One of the things, Mike, that's been pointed out over the course of today and last night after the game is that you seem resigned to the fate after the game, that there wasn't much fire in you, and you sort of stood up before the media and said, well, this is the way it is. Are you resigned to this fate?
Well, you're the same guy that wrote about me when I did have the fire, that was the wrong thing to do. So who you crapping?
Well, I'm just asking.
Don't crap me now.
No.
I heard through a little birdie whose name rhymes with Jonathan Hood that you guys didn't necessarily want to do that, or that there was a conversation about whether it carried that over or not.
True.
So because it was their bit, it's an old different show's bit.
I felt weird.
I bet.
I used to tune in to listen to it. I used to make sure that I ran out of the Rockford Lightning offices in time to not miss Who You Crappin'.
Yeah. So you felt weird to take it or to carry it forward.
Yeah, but then Ron Gleason kind of was the deciding factor, and he said it was Terry who asked the question. It's Terry's voice. It should be Terry's segment, and McNeil was not happy about it. He wasn't. Made that, made it clear. Time that wasn't his choice was to have that live on with him. But I mean, everything's cool. But it was Gleason who said that who was like, well, it was Terry, and that's his bit. We've never really figured out the intellectual property with a lot of our bits.
Oh no, of course not. I get, but like the genius of that bit. I mean, obviously, it begat Bum of the Week, and For That You Suck, and What's Your Beef, and all of that.
At every radio station, everywhere.
Everywhere across the country. But it had an intellectual defining, it had to be something someone said.
That nobody understood. That was the problem. That you do the same bit for 20 years, and you're at the end of it, and people still didn't understand it. And that actually became really fun.
Oh, I know.
When Terry would get angry because we'd have some regular caller who still didn't get it. And it's like, well, no, that doesn't, that's not what we're doing here, buddy.
But that was part of the charm, though, because you also knew that at some level it was your own fault.
Of course.
Right?
Of course it was.
Or was it just the idiot listener's fault?
No, it's a symbiotic relationship. One begets the other. It's idiot hosts create idiot listeners.
That's it. So that's...
All right, we are looking for a big finish on Who You Crappin'. He's done reading. It is up.
He's done reading.
Because the good ones were all coming in via email. I'm like, Terry, look, you can talk to these idiots, or we can actually read the ones that came from the smart people.
This from Stonecutter. So here's the thing. So he's done reading. That's about as close as he got to. He didn't criticize you on the air very much.
Sure he did.
Did he?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I don't remember it.
Sure he did.
I don't remember him coming at you very much on the air.
No, well... It just wasn't really the nature of it wasn't sort of like a fire and ice hot take, you say this, right. I say this partnership.
But Dan, there's things about you that are very desirable to come after.
They're completely miserable.
Yes,
it just deserve lampooning.
No, and not even that, but it's like how you could sit next to you and not come after you. That's part of his egolessness in a lot of ways. Like he didn't enjoy that part of it, I guess.
No, like he would come after if it was funny.
Yeah.
He'd make a joke about something. He wouldn't do it to be mean
or to prove something about himself.
No,
didn't need to.
He would absolutely do it if it were funny. In service of the bit. If other people would find it funny, he'd do it.
Let's talk about what Terry Boers' North Star was in that way.
Put on Dr. Radio.
Dr. Radio himself, Dan Bernstein, is in the building. It's been a wonderful thing to just listen about Terry. I wanted to ask you, because I assume you know more, but his weird beginnings pre-radio carried a mythology because they didn't seem possible to me.
You read his book. I mean, it's all there.
So say more about that. He wrestled a bear. Is that correct?
Well, Victor the Bear was a little one-off thing, but he did get involved in like low-level minor league professional wrestling.
Okay.
More as a manager than as a wrestler, but he kind of played a character at these things, and that was part of Terry's lore, as well as horse racing.
Yeah, the horse racing. I thought about him today because Hawthorne Racecourse is not doing well.
It hasn't been doing well ever.
I know, but there was another level of
Terry.
not doing well.
It's like eventually it'll be dead, but then it's mostly just sort of not doing well for a while.
Hawthorne Racecourse is having. I got to think.
I can't be there because she made the appointment and then they canceled the appointment. I don't know. I tried. Maybe you can try, but I don't know. They put me in this thing. They're calling it a portal. I don't know how to use it. The only portal I know is on a boat.
You're right. Like they canceled another week of stuff because there's another lawsuit. But anyway, he loved the horse racing and was steeped in that stuff.
The track. Yep.
So anyway, those weird and humble beginnings. I remember. Do you remember when Bernstein saw the house on the front?
Oh, that amazingly tiny little. I still can't believe how the entire family could live in there.
Yeah.
It was like the Monty Python bit with the shoebox.
Right. It's like we lived in a shoebox on the side of the road. You had a whole shoebox.
We ate nothing but gravel.
Yes, exactly.
I couldn't believe how small a house you
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Father, coming down from Deerfield.
Look at it. Look at that. There was an entire family in there.
Yeah, no, it's true. So how did he become so freaking brilliant and worldly? By the time you heard him on the radio,
You know why?
it's remarkable. There is a lot of self-made genius to that man.
Well, it's something that isn't done all that often anymore, alas. It's called reading. He was a great and voluminous, voracious reader, and he worked at knowing stuff. He was curious. Yeah. He had this intellectual curiosity where, I mean, today we've got the entire collective intelligence of the world in our hand.
Yeah.
And if you're curious about something, you can find out more. Mm-hmm. And he did. He did. And when you couple that with his journalistic understanding of get the facts right, really know stuff, it's also part of what you were talking about before, about his desire to talk to people. I know he would always say, I don't like people. But he did. Of course he loved people. And all of his travel for work, everything that he did, whether it was flying around with the bulls, or he always took advantage of being where he was and enjoying where he was, enjoying the friendships he made and experiencing things. Terry was a really good experiencer of stuff. And even as he got older, he and Peach, when they wanted to go travel, there's stuff he wanted to go see things and take a cruise and bother everybody at the bar on the cruise and play this room and play that room. And it was ultimately just his intellect, his curiosity, and then he was able to take in the same information everybody else does, and then it would come out differently because his processor was so unique.
Terry did put it all in the book. You're right, and the book is a great read, and I know a lot of people have gone and reread
back.
it.
Yeah, I the last couple of nights, I went back and just glanced at some things again, because it makes you, it gives you a little bit of warmth when you hear him in his words, because it's the way it's written sounds like Terry. It was not overly polished or scrubbed or made to sound like something that wasn't in his voice. So it really is his voice. A
friend of mine, one of my poker buddies, had texted a while back because he found the book. And then he was remembering how my friend, was on Fox 32 after the Cubs blew Game 7 of the NLCS, holding a giant Larry Horse sign. He made a giant Larry Horse sign and was on the Fox broadcast behind Dane Placco, who was recording a live thing. And he went the next day. You guys were on remote, and he went and delivered the sign to you. And he said,
"That's your buddy?"
That's my buddy. And he has a videotape that says Larry Horse on it in his collection of videotapes because he has a shot of that. But yes, this is the level of devotion and absurdity that show
Here's
fostered.
Larry Horse.
Yeah, a lot of what happened was it was before we called things memes. There was a mimetic aspect to the world that Terry helped build. I have people, and one of the reasons I'm laughing, again, the number of condolence notes or people just wanting to reach out and share memories that reference one or more of Terry's monkeys. Everybody has a thought of individual of these mythical made-up monkeys.
How many did he have?
Well, that's debatable. I think at one point we had the sick monkey, because that is, kiss a sick monkey's wet ass.
Yes.
So that
you can kiss a sick monkey's wet ass. I'll tell you that right now, John. You St. Louis bitch. You silly St. Louis bastard. First of all, I hate everybody from St. Louis. Everybody. From the oldest to the youngest on down from there. I hate them all, including including you.
And you can kiss my ass and don't spare the crack.
Is that Chris Ranji coming up at 7 o'clock? Is that what he's talking about?
There was the sick monkey, and then one time he accidentally said, you can kiss a wet monkey's sick ass. So that's when we created the wet monkey. And then these are all based on malaprops. There was the sick monkey, the wet monkey, the sink monkey was just the monkey that lived in the sink. Then there was the Sikh monkey. That
he was a religious.
He was a Sikh. Yes, that was the Sikh monkey. And then there was
Terry was very inclusive in that way.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they lived in his basement. There was the filthy monkey. There was the Iranian space monkey that was on assignment. He could not be used. They couldn't send him for anything. He was always on assignment. And then I know the Eaton monkey. Because there was a monkey that got eaten by lions.
Teddy is nodding approving.
No, he's rolling. Yeah.
No,
I was going to help him with the Iranian space monkey.
No.
But he got it.
No. Am I missing one?
Yeah.
I know that there's one that maybe didn't get full-fledged monkey status. That was like the featured players on SNL.
Jay Zawoski, do you remember any of Terry's monkeys that you'd like to offer in?
I think they've covered all of them.
I think.
Yeah.
How about Jay Zawoski coming back to be a part of this just because he wanted to?
I just want to see Danny.
I mean,
and you guys to a lesser extent.
Well, like to the reach of Terry, like I'm watching the movie Sunset Boulevard from 1950, and if you remember that movie, yeah, Gloria Swanson, there's a dead monkey in the first few minutes, and I'm like, oh, now that's a sick monkey right there.
It was a sick monkey.
Not anymore.
It never stops, and even the bits that I'm still doing, and members of, was. It was Terry, I want to say Styx and members of Styx that started that years ago, and we just sort of we planted that seed and watered it, and that became a thing.
Wow. It's part of the lexicon now. It's almost like Terry is like The Simpsons, where it's just overly quoted. I texted you 3 days before Terry passed, like, who did he say made a rash decision?
That was travel with Terry. And that was just in the airport because he couldn't do it. Quick story. I don't know if this story has been told yet. And if you really want to know like the essence of the creation of Terry Boers, the on-air guy.
Yeah.
And what wasn't taught and what just was natural to him. I ran into, years ago, a guy who I think was working for Duke at the time. He was the associate SID at Duke. And he recognized me from when I was a student. He kind of looked at me, and I introduced myself. And he said, "Oh, you're on the radio. Who you working with?" I said, "Yeah, I work with a former Sun-Times columnist, a guy named Terry Boers." And his eyes got big, and he goes, "You work with Terry Boers?" I said, "Yeah. How do you know Terry Boers? I only know you from being down in Durham. You're not from Chicago." He said, "No." He said, "I went to Indiana," and he said, "I was a student SID assistant at Indiana." And he said, once a year, when Illinois would play in Bloomington, he said, I learned over time, all the student assistants used to talk and say, that's the night you want to be in the press room, that you want to be the guy putting the game notes out and putting the stacks of paper and the game notes. If you can be in the press room when Terry Boers arrives, don't miss it. Because he said that, first of all, it was Terry driving down to Bloomington to cover Bobby Knight.
Yeah, so
he's already going, right?
Yep.
So this is his opportunity to see Bobby Knight
and stick it to Bobby.
Well, and Lou was his guy, and Lou hated Bobby and the whole thing.
But Bobby took stuff so seriously, Terry would want to bust that balloon.
Well, I got to remember I'm on terrestrial radio at the moment, but it's also that Bobby Knight was a piece of crap, and Terry knew that.
It was a penis.
Yes, worse. But he said that Terry would arrive, the doors would fly open, and Terry would walk in and have an unkind thought for everybody in that room. All people he knew. Oh, who's over here? I knew I'd see you, you old fart in a rain barrel. What are you doing? Oh, this guy. Oh, you better watch the farm animals when he's around. And he just said it was like the greatest show on earth when Terry would come in and do that.
That is amazing. Yep. That is Dan Bernstein.